Zombies are political. For the last century or so, since zombies have been on our film and television screens, they have come to represent, far more than any other monsters in the horror genre, the deepest social anxieties we have at any current time. Of course, the term zombie comes from Haitian folklore. In the 18th and 19th century, before the Haitian Revolution, the slaves in that part of the world were living such under brutal conditions that they told stories about how when they were to, which sometimes they would do themselves to put themselves out of their misery, they would return back to their motherland, back in Africa or back where they had come from. But of course, the slave owners told a different story. They said, no, if you do that, if you yourself, then ultimately you will come back as a monster to feed on the living, and therefore you don't want to do that. So the idea of the zombie comes from Haitian folklore. Of course, through the centuries, the zombie gets appropriated by storytelling, most notably Hollywood. And in 1932, the film The White Zombie is released, a film which really portrays the zombie as part of the racial fear, the fear of the other, that kind of body which, left unchecked, can go around and terrorize Western imperial people. And then, of course, in the 60s and the 70s, you have George Romero's wonderful retelling of the zombie tradition with A Night of the Living Dead and, of course, Dawn of the Dead, in which the zombie comes to stand in for mindless consumption, that kind of mindless consumer that capitalism turns us into. And, of course, it's no coincidence that the Dawn of the Dead film, 1978, was shot in a shopping mall, the cathedrals of capitalist consumption. And more recently, we see those memes of, particularly on Black Friday and the times where people are scrabbling to get into the shops, that they juxtapose that with images from, yes, Dawn of the Dead. Of course, in the last couple of decades, as we live under late capitalism, the zombies in films, like in 28 Days Later, they are quicker, they are more agile, they're more cunning, representing how capitalism, with various forms of advertising and appropriation, they can ensnare us in their tentacles far better. And of course, relatedly, you've got films like World War Z, in which the zombies stand in for the immigrant, the invading horde, the refugee. You don't have to be a geopolitical scholar to see the Zionist metaphor of that film, in which you've got the people, the relative safety inside the walls of Jerusalem, and then you've got the Palestinian, yes, that's what they are, the Palestinian hordes trying to climb the walls. And then you have The Last of Us, that recent TV show, in which the zombies, they come about through a fungal infection in the brain, but it's a clear metaphor for climate change, because these zombies, these mushrooms, have laid waste to cities, they've laid waste to forests. It's a perfect metaphor for the effects that climate change will have on our world. So yes, zombies are political, indeed they are necropolitical, because they are so often allegorized. They stand in for the kinds of bodies that too often as a society we deem disposable, and the kinds of problems that creates in our world. And so the horror of the zombie lies not in their monstrosity, but in their familiarity.